Back in April, I made a couple videos that had to do with the pantheism controversy, which was a little debate between a couple of 19th century philosophers that was Jacobi and Mendelssohn, because it all had to do with the whole pantheism thing, the whole religious belief that God is not omniscient, not a supreme deity, but on this earth, in no superior omniscient form. But the whole thing that this was is, this had to do with Spinozism and Lessing and all this stuff. I talked about that in a couple videos. You can find one I talk mostly about Jacobi, and one I talk mostly talk about Mendelssohn. You can find both those right there. But I never really, but basically what this was a debate about because these things like pantheism of Spinoza and that Lessing held, this mostly was religious beliefs that had to do with reason, that was a part of reason, and that was what reason would lead to. And this created the whole thing about pantheism, created the debate where can religious faith and reason coincide with each other? Can you be reasonable and be Christian, or can you be even religious? And I never really spoke to what my opinions were on the actual debate about if reason can coincide with theism or not. I mostly just discussed the whole debate that those two philosophers in the 19th century had. But the reason I'm striking this whole thing up again is because recently a person on YouTube named Atticus Finch 51, who recently started watching some of my stuff, commented, because recently I've been making some videos about skepticism, but how I'm skeptical and idealist about things now, and how I can't know anything, and all this different stuff. It's just been like a bunch of huge trails of thought that I've been talking to this gadget about. In one of those videos was talking about God and how I'd be willing to bet all of my savings and all this stuff about I'd be willing to bet all of my life that there is a God that actually does exist. And Atticus Finch 51 commented on that video asking the exact question that the whole pantheism controversy leads to. Can reason and theism coincide with each other? Now, Jacobi was the philosopher who was a devout Christian who said that no, you can't have both those together. You need to have faith in Jesus, not faith in reason. Mendelssohn, on the other hand, who's a Jew, he said he was also a theist, a definite theist, and he said that no. He said that yes, we can have reason, and we can have reason, and we can have theism together, and that both those can coincide. Now, if you go to the Mendelssohn video, which I put links up here for both those, if you go to those, I kind of go into more detail about what Mendelssohn talks about, or about why he thinks that. But I made those in April, and I just rewatched both of them because I kind of forgotten about the whole topic until Atticus Finch brought the whole thing up. But I wanted to kind of talk about it more, and the whole thing about reason coinciding with theism, Mendelssohn's case does not convince me very well. And I'm thinking that if you are trying to be reasonable about everything in your life, I mean, it's good to have reason. It's good to incorporate reason in your life. It is. It's good too. It's good to incorporate reason. It's good to be reasonable about everything. It really can make things better for you. But I'm totally on Jacobi's side of this debate of reason and theism together. I don't think it's possible. Because if you do, you're going to fall into things like atheism, egoism, nihilism, solipsism, and all these different things are going to lead you to to negative beliefs. And if definitely if you're an atheist, then you quite possibly could be led to even more fatal beliefs. What I think is fatal belief, like anti-natalism. Because if you're being reasonable about looking at the world and deciding if there's a God here, there's a lot of things that we can't explain. And if you are using reason to think about things that we can't explain, you're going to end up rejecting the idea of what we can't explain equals God. Now, I agree that the argument about what we can't explain equals God. That's a wrong thing to say. All right, because we can't just link things that we can't explain to a further unknown thing. I mean, it's most reason, atheists will say that to you. But I mean, even still, theists will say that what they can't explain is God. But if you are on the boundary between theism and atheism, I don't know. I'm kind of weird. I'm kind of screwed up about the whole question about what we can't explain equals God, because any theist will say that there are a lot of things that we can't explain in this world, and that we have to just accept it. And I'm going to make a video here pretty soon where I want to look at faith and look at knowledge and look at how both of them are not compatible, I think, and how they're difficult to be together and how they aren't the same. But I think if you try and look at the world with reason all the time, you are not going to be led to a standpoint of faith about anything. You're going to look for the most reasonable explanation. You will not be able to deal with there being no explanation for things. You're going to look further and further for explanations for things that cannot be explained. And you're going to be probably led away from the concept of there being God. And I kind of do like the idea of what we can't explain is God, because I do believe that, and I trust because the whole thing here is that if you're trying to do things by reason, then you're doing things by what you know. You're doing things the most reasonable way possible. You're going to be led from positions of faith, led from positions of trust. But if you're using reason, it's going to be difficult for you to understand the theist standpoint. But I don't know. It's really hard for me to explain this, just because the thing is that faith and trust are things that come after religious experience, and I think that the conscious being needs to have some sort of religious experience, indirect or direct, that will lead them away from reason. I think that religious experience will be something that will touch you. It will involve you in something that you've never known before, and I don't know, some way you'll be brought to that, possibly. And once you have that, you will quit asking about things that are unexplainable. You will be put in a position of faith and trust into something that is supreme to you. So my whole purpose of this video is not to go into the things of faith and reason and knowledge and all this stuff, but it's to discuss, can reason and religion or theism coincide with each other? And I think the answer definitely is no. Because let's say we have a person who's on the fence between theism and atheism. Let's say we have somebody who's on the fence here. But if they have a religious experience, they're going to quit wondering about what's unexplainable. They're going to quit asking questions. And they're just going to be faithful and trust in in a supreme deity that they've been that they now understand to actually be there. But if for some reason this does not happen to them, what will happen is they will continue to use reason, and therefore continue to try to explain things that are difficult to explain or unexplainable, causing them to fall into things like atheism, egoism, solipsism, those fatal negative schools of thought. So, I mean, this is just mostly because if you're being faithful, and let's just look at the whole theist thought process, or the whole thing that a Christian thinks. A Christian quits questioning the unexplained things, quits wanting, well, a good Christian will not be questioning things that are not explainable. Will quit questioning things that they have no possibility of explaining themselves. They put trust in something that they have not seen. They've experienced in this one weird way, this religious experience. They've experienced it that way. But like I said before, knowledge is something that we don't have about anything unless it's inside ourselves. So they're still in a state of, this is not reason, though. I mean, I am a theist. I am a Christian. I'm all these things, and I can proudly say that I'm not using reason when I have faith and I have trust in this supreme deity that I've only experienced through a weird kind of religious experience, which is not through any of my five senses. I don't know. And I can say that if I have faith and trust and like this, that's definitely not what I would think falls into reason. But that's just my thought process about it. So hopefully that was kind of a rambling sort of video. So hopefully maybe that answers some kind of questions. But I don't know. Probably didn't.